the president of the American Public Education Foundation.
It's been about a 4-year process, and I'll never forget, how hard it was to finally, get to a point where you could really please her.
Thanks for joining us today for Think Big with Michael Zellner. Joining me today for episode 161 is David Pickler. David is an attorney, wealth advisor, speaker, leadership expert, public education advocate, and a philanthropist. He graduated magna cum laude from Arkansas State University with a Bachelor of Science in Business Management in 1980, and then attended the University of Memphis Cecil C. Humphrey School of Law in 1985 and was admitted to the Tennessee Bar in 1986. He is the Education Foundation, Pickler Wealth Advisors, which he founded in March of 2005. He is now a renowned author with the recent release of his book, Pillars of Purpose, Leadership Lessons for Achieving a Life of Significance, which I'm excited to talk to him about today. Thanks for joining me today, David.
Oh, glad to be here, Michael.
I appreciate your time. First of all, congratulations on your new book. I know that you spent many years putting that together, and from obviously many life experiences that you've had, and now you get to share it with the public. So that has to be really exciting for you.
It really is. I mean, it's been a real labor of love, and I kind of joke with people that I think that elephants are pregnant less long than it took me to write this book. But no, it's been about a 4-year process. Really been a great experience to really go through and think back about not only my life experiences, but the people who have influenced me, who have mentored me, who have inspired me over the years, and an opportunity to try to hopefully share some lessons that I believe are pretty timeless.
That's awesome. Speaking of people that influence you, to go back a little ways before we talk about Pillars of Purpose, you're from Jonesboro, Arkansas. Went to Jonesboro High School. Did you have maybe a few teachers, coaches, or people in your younger years that had a positive influence on you that still impact your life today?
Oh, with that question, I was very blessed to have some great coaches from very early on. And they influenced me an awful lot. And certainly in high school, I had an advanced comp teacher, that was really all about writing. And I love the fact that this teacher, every time you would turn in that first episode, the first edition, that it was always basically it's going to be a C or a D. And she made you rewrite and rewrite and rewrite until you finally got it to where it needed to be. And she really demanded excellence, and demanded that we think differently and not just settle for the easy answer. How hard it was to finally get to a point where you could really please her. To this day, I believe that the ability to express yourself in writing, to be able to do that, is so very important. And I know that when we hire people here at Pickler Wealth Advisors, one of the things that I do is ask everybody to give me a very short writing sample. To just, because I want to see how they can express themselves. And it's something that not everybody has. And right. In this day of Twitter and X and on Instagram, then I think the art of communication, the art of expressing yourself, of expressing your opinion is so important. And especially in a day and age where we've seen such polarization that people have lost the ability to debate.
Yeah.
And to me, it's another way of getting out there and sharing our thoughts. And it's so important for us to be thoughtful, to think about things, and to be able to express it, and hopefully express it in a manner that can be positive and can bring people together, as opposed to continue to divide people.
Absolutely. And, when you talk about teachers, I remember you grew up in the 70s. I grew up, in the 80s. And I remember I graduated from Ridgeway, and I had a senior English teacher in AP English named Harry Rainey. And he had a huge influence on my life. He made you work hard. He made you think. He did not tell you what you wanted to hear. And, I learned more in that class than I did in 4 semesters of English at Memphis, because he had that big of an influence. So you just never know. And thankfully, we have those people that we can look back on.
Well, we do. And I've always believed that teachers are really some of America's most important heroes. And so often, we really, when we think about heroism, we think about those Marvel comics that have turned into movies, or we think about sports people, or people who are more celebrities than anything else. And we really need to really think back of what the concept of heroism really is all about. And to me, teachers really embody the very, very best of our society. That those people who are really dedicated to giving their life to helping encourage others to be the very best they can be. And teachers are never paid what they deserve, but they are so important in our society of teaching kids self-esteem, teaching kids about pursuing the very best they can be, of thinking differently, and of, again, engaging in communications while still being respectful of other people's opinion. Teachers are so important.
They are. And you and I grew up, we were afraid of our teachers. Now the kids, the teachers are afraid of many of the kids in their class. It's amazing how, and social media, I think, has been a big reason for that.
Well, it has, and I'm a big believer in the concept of accountability, and I believe that, and this may not be a popular thing to say, but I believe that a lot of parents have abdicated that sense of responsibility for their children.
Absolutely.
And that what they have done is that anytime, I know when I was going to school, if I came back and I was complaining about something, my parents' default position was, well, you're wrong and the teacher's right. And as you indicated, there's been a complete changeover of that thinking. And now parents are the very first and very quickest to blame teachers for everything.
Yes.
And the reality is, parents should embrace the sense of accountability. The number one, parents are the first teachers, and kids learn what they live. And if parents are constantly blaming someone else, they're constantly, avoiding accountability. If they're trying to always shift the blame, kids are going to learn that, and they're going to model that, and they're going to manifest that in their entire lives. And that's why, again, I think what our teachers have to put up with in some cases is so very, very difficult. And that's why we see so many amazing teachers leave the profession. Yep. and pursue elsewhere because they get so little support. And I know when I had the honor of serving for 12 years as the chairman of the school board here in Shelby County, that we were huge proponents of supporting our teachers, and because we always clearly understand in any school building, the most important person in that school building is the school principal, because they set the culture, they set the example, and they should be there supporting the teachers. But right behind those principals are those teachers, because they are the ones that each and every day have to do that hard work of finding a way to inspire and to influence and to educate the children of our world, because ultimately the future of our nation is going to be largely dependent on our ability to educate the children, to empower them, to be full citizens in our economy, and quite frankly, to be, as we continue to try to be reasonable and competitors in the old idea of the global economy. And so, again, teachers touch eternity. They never know where their influence will lead.
Absolutely. You talked about being a member. You were on the first elected Shelby County School Board. I believe you were on the board for about 16 years. Also
Yep.
on the Tennessee School Boards Association, National School Boards Association for close to 7 years, where you were president from 2013 through 2014. That's amazing, and it shows that you're a person who wanted to make a difference. What did you enjoy most about those years on the different boards you were on, directly involved in decisions that impacted lives of children in Shelby County and across the nation?
Well, number one, it really was all about making sure that every child is really, I believe, is entitled to a great education. And one of the people would talk to me and they'd say, well, you're really a pro public education person, are you anti-private schools? And I said, absolutely not. I think that every parent should have the right to choose how their children will be educated, whether it be private school, parochial schools, or whether it be public education. But I believe that it was my responsibility to ensure that every child in every community within Shelby County had a great public education opportunity. And one of the things that we did that I'm so very proud of is that when I was at Shelby County Schools, was board chairman, we had an active and empowered PTA in every single school. In fact, for several years, we had 100% PTA membership, which means that for each of our 50,000 students, we had at least one PTA member. And that parents understood that there was an opportunity, also a responsibility to be involved in their schools, and that they were there to be supportive of the teachers. And so we had a real partnership that we worked very closely with our Teachers Association, we worked very closely with our PTAs, we worked very closely with our principals, and we created a culture, an environment that was all about learning. And the thing that was so unique about Shelby County Schools was that we were a district that the longer I was on the board, the more and more diverse that we began. And so by the time that I ended my board service and the old Shelby County Schools ended in 2010, we were a minority school district. Right. Each and every year, we had more and more students who were economically disadvantaged, more and more students who were from widely diverse cultures. But the other thing that was interesting was that each and every year, our test scores got better. And in fact, in 2008 and 2009, Shelby County Schools was the only school in America, the only school district in America that was a top 100 school district in terms of population, and also a top 100 school district in terms of student achievement. And that was so important. But we also, tried to stand firm for the right kind of values. I'll never forget when I first joined the board in 2008, 2009. We learned fairly quickly that one of the traditions that had been dropped in Shelby County Schools was the tradition of beginning each and every day with the recitation of our Pledge of Allegiance, and playing the national anthem. And I said, why are we not doing that anymore? And they said, well, we just kind of dropped it. And then I found out later that in most of our classrooms, we didn't even have an American flag.
Right.
And so I said, well, we've got to change that. And so we actually passed a board policy that said that we begin every day with saying the pledge. Now, if a child wanted to not participate, they could,
sure,
but also play the national anthem. But what we also did was I reached out that summer to Fred Smith, the chairman, the chair board CEO of FedEx. And I said, Mr. Smith, we've got a problem here because we've got 50 schools, a lot of schools that we've been building, and we need for every classroom to have an American flag. We need for every school to have a presentation flag. And I said, would you at FedEx, would you agree to be our partner and provide those? And he said, absolutely. And so we did that. And we actually passed a motion so that every child would know the words. And we actually had a plaque put in every classroom that had not only the words to the Pledge of Allegiance, but also our national motto, which is, of course, in God we trust.
Right.
And so in a very real way, we were able to bring God back into the classroom as well as patriotism. And we did things throughout the years, such as ensuring that Veterans Day was a day that we could really honor that it was a day we did not teach. We did not have classes that day, but we used that time to really teach our children about the amazing legacy we have in this country, about the people who have given that last full measure of their resolve for their country, and to teach them about the great giants and patriots, who have paved the way for us to have the society that we do. A society that can be very inclusive, can respect all religions, all faiths, all backgrounds, but also understand that even though as we grew in diversity, as we grew in having more and more students who were economically challenged, that we were not letting poverty stand as a barrier for student achievement. And that we found ways to direct the resources to make sure that the students could always have what they needed to be able to have that great experience. And so that when they walked across the stage, which is the most fun thing I got to do the entire time, was hand out those high school diplomas every year and look into the eyes of each and every one of those students and be there and be a part of that moment, be intentional and be present with them in that very important moment in their lives. And so to me, it was an opportunity to serve, an opportunity to give back, an opportunity to make sure that our schools represent the best of our community and became true magnets for the growth that we've been very proud to experience out here in suburban Shelby County.
His patriotism, it's missing so much today and everywhere, but in schools, I mean, it really hurts me thinking about it because I grew up saying the Pledge of Allegiance, national anthem, hand over the heart, take your hat off. And you look at now these kids today, so many of them, nothing. They don't say it. Schools don't make them say it. Teachers don't make them say it. or, or not make them say it. You know what I mean? Give them the opportunity if they want to. And I think it stinks.
Well, there's a classic line that if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Yes.
And I chose to use the opportunity that I had for public service to stand for something. And see, I never considered myself to be a politician. I consider myself to be an advocate for children, an advocate for teachers, an advocate for excellence. And so that means that occasionally you've got to break a few eggs.
Yeah.
Okay. You've got to take on some challenges, and yeah, it does mean that from time to time you're going to have some people who are not maybe the most kind in terms of the things they say or do, but it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, it's all about leaving a legacy. It's all about trying to leave things better than what you found it. And I've been a big believer in scouting, and been involved in scouting for many years, both Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, and now, of course, they're kind of merging them together to a certain extent. And scouting used to have a motto that they would have on their bumper stickers that said, "America is returning to the values that scouting never left." And I think across the country we've lost a lot of those values, and I think we've got to find a way to get back to the basics. The basics of people understanding that there is responsibilities of citizenship. There's responsibility to be accountable. There's responsibility to be a contributor. And that's why we talk about in the book this whole idea of success versus significance. And there are many people who are successful, but if all your focus is on yourself, on what it does for you or for your family, then that's great, but that's also somewhat limiting. Because you're not really accomplishing all you could. And so I've always said, there are many people who are successful, but maybe not significant. But you've never met someone who is significant, who was not also successful. Someone who understood it's about service over self. It's about giving back. It's about thinking about your fellow man, and doing it in a manner whereby, we can all try to grow together. We can all try to be the very best we can, and we can all try to be examples for others. And maybe to live a life that leaves that long shadow, leaves those footprints in the sand for others to follow, and move forward.
You said, quote, "Every time you touch the life of a child, you touch eternity," unquote. I understand that you used to dress like the Cat in the Hat as you read Dr. Seuss books to children in about 15 to 20 schools each month during the week-long event, Read Across America. True story?
True story. Now, and the craziest part of that is that from time to time I would have to drive from one school to the other and didn't have time to change out the costume. And so I would get some strange looks when I'm driving by with the Cat in the Hat costume on. And listen, there is nothing that's more fun to me than going into those classrooms and reading to those kids, especially the kindergartners, first grade, second grade. By the time they're getting to third or fourth grade, they're getting a little wise to you, and they're maybe not having quite as much fun. But look at watching the looks on their face when you walk in there like some big crazy stuffed animal, or a Cat in the Hat, and believe me, I've dressed in some crazy costumes over the years for programs for PTA or whatever, and that's part of the fun of it. We should never take ourselves too seriously. And always be open to the joy that is of just being in the moment. And when you're going in there and these kids are smiling and they're looking up at you and they're, you're reading these great books, the works of Dr. Seuss or others, and then telling these amazing stories, then that's so cool. And that's why, what we did in the book, we tried to make the book about storytelling. And because people love stories, and that's why every year that I can, I still go back into those classrooms, and yes, I can still fit in the Cat in the Hat costume.
That's awesome. That I mean, to make that kind of a difference on young kids, I mean, you were making them smile, but inside that costume, you had to be smiling big.
Oh my gosh, yes, fun stuff.
That's awesome. Not only all of that, but in 2015, you became president of the American Public Education Foundation, which is, quote, "an independent private foundation whose mission is to educate, inspire, and lead all those involved in public education and the next generation of servant leaders." APEF was founded by nationally recognized education leaders for education leaders to help ensure America's economic and vital national security interests through American public education, unquote. Tell us just a little bit about your role as president of the foundation, please.
Sure. You know, one thing that you learn when you're involved with public education, and whether it be at the local level, as I was for 12 years as the board chairman, 16 years on the board, whether it's the state president or the case as the national president, then you learn that there are so many big issues that are out there in public education, and we can't boil the ocean. We can't solve every problem. But I knew that when my term and my time in publicly elected office in 2012 and 2014 ended, there's still much work to be done. Right. And my passion for education had not in any way diminished. In fact, it probably had grown. You know, during that time that I served as National School Board President, I had the opportunity to travel all across America and meet amazing people who are advocates, who were fighting on a daily basis for greatness in education, or greatness, you know, in public schools. And those stories need to be told, and they need to be advocated for. And so when I left public office, then I said there is work to be done. And so we came together and I formed what we then called the American Public Education Foundation. We've actually changed the name now to the American Pillars Education Foundation because we are supporting not just public education, but all education. And as we went forward, our focus just was, you know, we can't solve every issue, but we can try to make a meaningful difference in a couple of areas. And so we put a focus on really what we call the twin pillars of workforce development and financial literacy. And financial literacy, I felt, was something that was, you know, obviously something that was very close to me, having spent the past 40 years of my life in the wealth management world, being a financial advisor for people, but also with the incredible understanding that we have an epidemic of financial illiteracy in this country. And a lot of people don't realize that nearly half of all divorces are caused from financial issues. That a huge portion, in fact, one of the leading causes of suicide in this country is from financial issues. That we have children that are simply not given the basic tools to function, not only survive, you know, just to function in our economy. And that in many cases, you know, by the time they get to 15 or 16 years old, then their first experience with financial education is being deluged in the mail with credit card offers.
Right.
And then, you know, and by the time that they go off to college and they get through the first couple of years of college, they may have already found themselves overburdened with credit card debt. We also have situations where we have way too many children who are going off to college and building up an enormous amount of student loan debt. And they may end up graduating from a college with a degree that may have very little, if any, economic value, but overburdened with tremendous amounts of student loan debt. And a lot of people may not realize that student loan debt is actually a larger portion of debt in this country than credit cards or car notes. It's second only to home mortgages. And you may have people with 10, 20, 50, 100, $200,000 of credit card, student loan debt, and no plan for doing it. So what we decided to do was to first take on the issue of financial literacy. And we began to have conversations with states all across the country. And the first thing that we did was we created a report card that literally assessed where every state in the country was in terms of having financial education as part of the high school curriculum, or for that matter, middle school or elementary school. And the first year that we did this, which was actually 5 years ago, that 75% of the states in this country ranked as a D or an F.
Wow.
And with very, very, very few states having any sort of curriculum, whether it was a graduation requirement or not, that would provide students even the most basic tools for education. So we started networking with these states. We started communicating with states, started talking to the education heads in each state. We started providing sample legislation that would serve as a model to begin to incorporate financial education in the curriculum. And over the course of the past 5 years, we now have seen where more than half the states in this country now require financial education as a high school requirement. And now we're beginning to work towards middle school and elementary school. And towards that end, we actually are about to launch here in the next month a project that I've been working on for 5 years, and that is the first ever development of national standards for K through 12 of what children should know about financial education, kindergarten through 12th grade. And then in addition to the national standard, curriculum, learning activities that's aligned to those standards. And this is all going to be made available free of charge to any school in America, to any teacher in America, any family in America. We're in the process of working through to get funding to actually, or partner, to make an animated version of our curriculum and content, and actually to build, because some people love those cartoons, build avatars, so we can tell that story. So financial education is something that we really believe that we can move the needle on. We can make a big difference on, and it's beginning to happen. We're building some great partnerships with organizations across the country. We've already been building partnerships with the state of New Jersey, the state of New Mexico, and here in Tennessee. So that's been our financial education element. The second part is the workforce development that we're going through and building partnerships. And we started here as a beta test in Shelby County. And we created the West Tennessee Workforce Collaborative to really try to rethink how we're delivering education. And the first example of that was here in Collierville with Collierville High School. Collierville High School, which opened up about 5 years ago, is incredible in the fact that they are rethinking the whole concept of what a high school experience should be. There are more than 20 vocational programs at Collierville, everything from auto mechanics to drone aircraft piloting, to welding, to nursing, to hospitality, to cosmetology, to ag tech. A lot of people think of agriculture as, that's kind of old. It's just farming.
Sure.
But agriculture now is a high-tech industry, and we actually have helped create basically a working farm on the Collierville High School campus. And so these kids are able to come and put a focus on preparing themselves, not just for college and career, but for whatever they want to do in the workforce. And to understand the fact that 69% of the most in-demand jobs that will be created over the next 10 years do not require that four-year college diploma, but they do require some additional training, some additional certifications. So we're building partnerships with trade associations. We're building partnerships with community colleges. We're building partnerships with corporate America. One of our biggest partners is actually Ford in Blue Oval City. And so this collaborative, which involves all of our suburban school districts right now, and we're looking to include Memphis and all the districts in West Tennessee, is all about building a partnership that we can make sure that our schools are preparing children for the workforce of tomorrow. Because one of the biggest challenges we have in Tennessee is not our geography, which is great. It's not our tax structure, which is fantastic. It's the fact that we don't have enough adequately trained workers to be able to compete for the jobs that businesses want to bring into Tennessee. Right. And so this is really what we're trying to focus on with our foundation, is creating those critical conversations that can really ensure that our children are having the best opportunity, that they're prepared for the economy that they'll be competing in, that they'll have that adequate training in financial education, and they'll be given the opportunity to prepare themselves for the kind of jobs that will be created as we go forward.
That's amazing. I wish that I had that in school. I mean, coming up in high school and everything, because you didn't. We weren't taught anything about finances and money.
Nope, you weren't. And again, that's something we've got to change because, again, it's an epidemic and it's getting worse. I know I got a report just yesterday where, once again, the number of credit card delinquencies that we're dealing with here in the U.S. is on the rise. And that's something that we'd gotten better during the pandemic. People were doing a better job of saving. But now that we're getting a little distance from the pandemic, then people are relaxing. They're not being as focused as they need to on their budgets, of course, and many people don't even have an operating budget within their household. Right. And it's paycheck to paycheck. And that's one of the reasons why we have so many Americans that are unable to really even contemplate the idea of retirement. Because they've either not been given the tools on the front end, and they're certainly in many cases not given good advice and counsel to live beneath their means, to save and take advantage of opportunities with their employers for 401k plans and retirement savings plans that are to make good, intelligent choices so that down the road they would have the ability to retire, to the ability to be able to pursue their dreams, to maybe to become an entrepreneur and create new jobs and open businesses, because they need to know the basics of how to succeed and how to survive in our economy.
Absolutely. A lawyer, a school board member, and then a career in the investment business. I believe it began like in the late 90s for you. It's another way of helping people, and it's no surprise to me that you got involved in helping people to, as you talk about, make money and save money. What made you choose this path at that time?
It's funny because when I was a kid, I remember when I was about 10 years old, I read a book. And the book was written by a guy named F. Lee Bailey. F. Lee Bailey was a very, very famous criminal attorney.
Yes.
And in fact, he had defended the Boston Strangler and a guy named Sam Shepard. And of course, later in life, he became famous or infamous for being part of the defense team for O.J. Simpson.
The dream team.
He wrote this book called The Defense Never Rests. And I read that and I said, wow. What a cool deal to be an attorney, to be able to represent people, to help them. And I decided I wanted to be an attorney. And so that was my focus all the way through junior high school. And I got to college and I'm on track to go to law school. And then I said, what happens if I don't go to law school? Then, because I was studying political science at that time, thinking, hey, this is great, it'll be a great primer for law school. And then I said, what am I going to do with a political science degree if I don't go to law school?
Right.
And so early financial literacy, you might say. And so I said, I probably need to have a fallback position. So I moved from that into a heavy finance orientation in an undergrad and industrial management, and moved into that area. And so when I got out of college, I had gotten married, and I said, well, I'm going to take a year off before I go to law school, kind of work on the marriage, begin to build a career, and then go to law school at night. And as it worked out, the job I ended up with was with Xerox, and I was selling copiers during the day and started going to law school at night and thinking, I'm going to do this, I'm going to go into corporate law with Xerox, it's going to be great.
Right.
But about 3 years into my career with Xerox, they came to me and offered me a promotion. And they said, this is a great deal. The only problem is we want you to have to drop out of law school, and we're moving you to Little Rock. And I'm thinking, I've been in law school for 3 years. I've survived going to night law school. Somehow or the other, my wife and I had a baby. I'm not sure how we had time for that, but we did. And I said, I can't do this. And so I had a number of my friends who had actually gotten into the investment business, the securities business. And I said, if I'm going to stay in Memphis, then, and I can't really turn these guys down for this promotion and have really a career with them. So I'm going to need to make a change. So I literally started cold calling investment firms. And I knew nothing about the investment business. My parents didn't have a lot of money. But I said, this is something I think I can be good at. Something that, again, I can make a difference. I can be a positive influence in people's lives. And sure enough, I got seven interviews, 7 job offers, and ended up taking a position with a firm called Payne Weber. And so finished up law school. And by the time I got out of law school, I was having some success in the investment business. And I said, well, maybe I can do both.
Right.
And so for the next 20 years, I built a career in the investment world and also had a law practice on the side. But I always knew there was something more. I could take this level of client service to the next level. And so I began really looking at and studying and going with the management training. And so in about the year 2000, Payne Weber was sold. They went through a merger and were sold to a firm called UBS, big Swiss banking firm. And I said, you know what? If I'm ever going to do something different, it's now. So I began to build a plan. And I began to, to designate specific money and begin to save and develop a program. And it took 5 years. But over that 5-year program, I built the plan for what has become Pickler Wealth Advisors. I actually wanted to own my own building. And so I literally, while I was still working for UBS, I started raising the money and actually building a building, the building that we're in now. I started putting together, the team, the organization I wanted to have, making sure that I create a vision for the type of business I had, an organization that would really be all about client service, all about being very client centric, and an organization that would build a culture that would be very inclusive and very family oriented. And so sure enough, in March of 2005, we opened up Pickler Wealth Advisors. About a year later, we opened up the Pickler Law Firm. Was able to start hiring other lawyers because we put a total focus on estate planning, which really dovetailed very well with what our clients did.
Sure.
And then a couple of years later, we opened up the accounting firm. And so now we're able to offer really a holistic level of services that brings together, really all the problems that most people have, whether it be tax accounting or whether it be estate planning or wills and trust, the investment side, financial planning, education funding, debt analysis. And so we're able to really create this very synergistic model that really has not been replicated many places across the country. And it's so fun to be able to come in there and say, whatever the issue is, we can give you advice and counsel on it. And whether or not they chose to use the accounting firm or the law firm or the wealth advisor firm, it didn't matter. Many clients use all three, but we know that we've got that knowledge. We know we have those skills to be able to at least give them advice and counsel. And we say that each and every day, it's our family delivering solutions. It's our family solving problems for our clients. And it has been the most amazing journey. And it's been a journey that now sees that literally 100% of our new business comes from referrals. Right. And so clients embrace who we are, and they are our biggest advocate. And it's every day I come in there, every day is different. And I tell people I have the best job in the world because I get to come in all day and do nothing but solve problems for people. It's great.
That's wonderful. Just like you talked about, within 6 years of starting, in the investment business, March of 2005, you opened up, in Collierville, which is, for people that are not in Memphis, that's a suburb of Memphis. In 2022, Pickler Wealth Advisors was named a charitable champion, with 12 employees donating 4,500 hours of their time, a total cash contribution, I believe, of $352,000, which is amazing. And this year, you were chosen by Forbes magazine in their top 10 for best in-state wealth advisors. What do you believe, David, sets your firm and obviously your companies apart from other investment companies, and why do you believe that your employees have been very successful in helping, advising, and creating solutions for your clients?
Sure. Well, it really begins with, again, that culture. And kind of the founding principles of our firm really were around the twin pillars of advisory excellence and community engagement. From the very first day that we opened, our staff, our clients all understand who we are. We're a firm that we don't spend any money on traditional print advertising. We don't spend any money on media. We put all of our money to work in the community. And consistently, since we've opened the doors here, we allocate at least 10% of our gross revenue, not net profits. 10% of our gross revenue goes directly back into the community. In organizations such as Scouts, organizations such as the Orpheum Theater, JDRF, Make-A-Wish, St. Jude, and countless others. And so it is an essential element of our DNA that we're an organization that is all about community. It's all about giving back. It's all about being indispensable in the lives of our clients. And because of the fact that, we were structured as an independent firm, it gives us the flexibility to be completely independent in our thinking. We don't have any proprietary products. We don't have anything that we're captive to. So we can simply help our clients solve those problems, define those solutions, develop those plans, and do it in the manner that serves each client best. Every client has their own independent structure. Every client has their own independent design as to how we're doing it. The second thing is we are a planning firm. I've been a certified financial planner for nearly 40 years. And in being a certified financial planner, it means that at the element of everything, at the essence of everything we do is planning. And we spend a significant amount of time with every client, really investing our time before we ever talk with them about investing their money, about really understanding and not only the basics of their situation, not only just about their money, but about all the elements, about their family, about their estate plan, about their goals, their dreams, their fears. And then so by doing that and spending such a significant amount of time on the front end, really getting to know the client, and then developing those very specific action steps to help them build that plan, it really is an amazing thing. But what then really takes it to the next step, because many planning firms do some of those things.
Sure.
But what really separates us is the next step, and that is a commitment to systematic, ongoing monitoring and review. We build a relationship with a client. It's really a lifelong relationship, and we're meeting with that client, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times a year, working with them to make sure that those plans remain relevant, that we're updating as we need to, that we're looking at it, what's going on in their life. We really become life partners with our clients, and I can't tell you how many times that I get a phone call on the weekend where a client is thinking about making an offer on a house, or they're in a car lot getting ready to think about buying a car, or they're contemplating making a change in terms of a business situation, and they're calling for my advice and counsel. And what an amazing honor that is.
Yeah.
When you think about building a life of success and significance, one of the most important pillars is trust. And it's something that, that we have been so blessed, so honored to be the trusted advisors for our clients. And it's something that is not given, it's earned, and it's re-earned every single day. And the thing that a lot of people fail to understand, it's not about the big things. It's doing the little things every day, to being consistent, to being present, to being, relevant in their lives. And it takes a lot of work. It
Sure.
takes a lot of passion, but it is so rewarding, to be there for, the big moments and the little moments with our clients, and for the honor of them saying, I wouldn't have thought about doing this without talking to you, and so every day it's just a wonderful opportunity to serve.
I've always said it's the little things that make the big things happen.
Without question, and quite frankly, you got to do the little things to earn the right to do the big things.
That's very true. I like that. I like that a lot. Tell us about bullets and My 2 cents.
Okay. Well, My 2 cents really had its genesis back about 10 years ago. And I had the wisdom and the great fortune of hiring an incredible guy on my team, Cameron Spann, about 10 years ago, actually 11 years now. And because I just had assumed the office of president of the National School Boards Association, and my wife actually had this great idea. She said, you ought to send out some sort of a little weekly blog or something, about things that are going on, and maybe share a little tidbits about your life and maybe your points of view of some things. And I thought that was great. So that's why we call this blog My 2 cents. And literally, it's become almost like almost like a motto and just a part of who I am. I literally don't walk out of the house with that 2 pennies in my pocket every day. Those my 2 cents in there. But My 2 cents literally is a weekly blog that we have a lot of fun with it because we highlight things that are important. I mean, we may talk about this week Memorial Day. We'll talk about the history of Memorial Day or Mother's Day or the Kentucky Derby. Just things that are fun for people, Super Bowls. But we also use that as a mechanism to talk about things that are important for our clients. They're more of a kind of a fun, kind of a social thing. And yes, for the past 8 years, I've included pictures of my granddaughters every week. And many of my clients tell me how much they love getting My 2 cents because they've been able to literally watch my grandchildren grow up. Because every week we put on it. But it's all about making our life more personal and opening ourselves up and being vulnerable, quite frankly. And so we have a huge commitment to communication within our Pickler companies. We do the My 2 cents every week. We also have a blog that is called Bullcast, that my daughter and Cameron and another member of our team, Court Winsett, do, that really takes those both more complicated financial issues and brings them down to where they're easy to understand for people. And then I've been doing a weekly telephone call that ever since the pandemic that we call Bull Talk, that we can talk through some of the complicated issues of what's going on in the market and the economy. But our most recent and our newest member of our communications family, our Bull Network, if you would, is Bullets. And so Bullets is a program we started in January, and it's designed to be literally about a 5 to 7 minute brief update. So in 5 to 7 minutes, we can give you the market, give you the world, and talk a little bit about what happened in the month of April. What do we expect is going to be happening in the month of May? What should you be looking for? And so it's all about just providing the type of content that clients can pick and choose what they want. Because again, if they want to read, my 2 cents, they've got that. If they want to listen to the podcast, they've got that. If they're available on Thursday and they want to have an interactive conversation with me, we're available for that. And we even have a partnership with Collierville High School that I'm very proud of, that we've been doing for 4 years, and that is Bull TV. And it's a great expression of workforce development because it's completely student run. And we're having conversations just like you and I are, right, with some influential people, in both the Memphis community as well as across the country, and just having great dialogue. But what it does is it gives those kids real world experiencing and producing a monthly television show that we then put out on community access television and also, through our Bull Network that we've created.
That's awesome. What an amazing thing to do all those things. I mean, how do you keep up with all this?
Well, number one, we have a great team.
Yeah.
I've been blessed that I have a pretty active and creative mind. But you take those ideas and you've got to then find a way to make those happen. And that comes with having an incredible team. And we have built that over the years. We started out with 3 people back in 2005, and we have a staff more than 25 now. And but we're still small enough that we don't consider ourselves to be a Wall Street firm. We're a Main Street firm. We're mom and pop. But the opportunity to help each of my employees, each of my staff members, really team members, grow and achieve their goals, achieve their potential. I mentioned Cameron. Cameron's been able to develop his own business where he actually does a lot of design work. He creates logos. He actually created the new logo for the town of Collierville recently. Cool. And so watching other people have the foundation that they can achieve their dreams and still be part of our family is really, really inspiring and so much fun.
Great. You launched your new book on April 18th, 2024 with a great book signing at the Pickler Event Center. Quote, Pillars of Purpose shows us that a life of significance is built upon purpose, empathy, and a commitment to helping others. This book will inspire readers to leave a positive, lasting impact on those around them, unquote. Educator and former superintendent at Shelby County Schools, John Aitken, said this of your new book. What inspired you to write Pillars of Purpose?
It started out as it's going to be an autobiography. And I said, I've got 2 granddaughters, 8 and 4, love them to death. And I wanted to do something so that maybe when this old guy was dust, there might be a way to remember a little bit about their granddad. And so I started out with this idea of writing this autobiography. And I spent literally months trying to develop, start writing it, doing chapters, coming up with an outline. And I was experiencing tremendous mental and writer's block. It just wasn't working. And then I had this epiphany. About 3 years ago, I said, the problem is I don't like talking about myself. and I need to change the focus. It didn't need to be about me. It needed to be about we. And when I changed the focus from, my story to the people who have influenced my life, the people who have inspired me, the people who have mentored me, the people that I have watched and have admired or read about, and then tell a story about how anyone can build a life of both success and significance. And then I would interweave some of those stories, from my life, to bring the relevance, because the story of Pillars of Purpose is that anyone and everyone can build a life of significance. But what it starts with is understanding your why. And in fact, I began the book with a quote. One of my favorite quotes is from Mark Twain. And he said, the 2 most important days in any person's life is the day they're born and the day they understand why. And so it's about why. It's about your purpose. And so, the idea was to build a book that really, could help someone build a life, as you would build a building. And so when you think about those pillars, then you start with the bedrock. You start with that foundation, the bedrock principles. And those are 5 chapters that really is all about what are the elements to finding your why, finding your purpose. And then we build into the second section, which was really all about, okay, now I know what my purpose is. Now I know what my why is. I'm excited. I'm inspired. Now, how do I make something out of it? How do I work with this? And those are the pillars, and each and every one of them is really the how. It's, how do you actually, take that energy, take that passion, and then translate it into real change, real meaningful accomplishments in your life? How do you do those things? And so you build around those 9 pillars. And then once you do that, then, the last section is really all about what I think are 2 very important things. Number 1 is accountability. We talked about it earlier.
Yeah.
Is having that personal accountability to hold yourself accountable for doing these things. Because it's great to read about your why. It's great to think about how to do things. But now you've got to convert, those dreams into action. Walt Disney once said, if you can dream it, you can do it. Right. But in order to do it, then many people have to overcome that most incredible thing. And that is, you have to have that catalyst to create activity. We talk about, that a body at rest tends to stay at rest. A body in motion tends to stay in motion. So how do you create activity? How do you create motion? How do you inspire someone to actually, go from thinking about it to actually doing it? And that's that catalyst that you've got to have. And that catalyst, can be that personal accountability. And then the very last chapter, the very last section of the book is about this whole concept of success versus significance. About thinking about something that's beyond just what benefits you, and how you can truly lead a life that leaves that long shadow, that leaves those footprints, that leaves that legacy. And so, again, I interweave, stories that have been impactful for me with stories of incredible people throughout history, and incredible people in my life. And together we take the reader on a journey that can allow them and empower them to live a life of purpose and to really accomplish and fulfill their dreams.
Are you okay on time? Because I have a few more questions for you.
Go for it. I'm good.
Okay. All right. Elaborate, if you can, a little bit on the concept of leadership lessons for achieving a life of significance as highlighted in the book.
Sure. Well, again, when we think about leadership lessons, then, we are all people who have the ability to influence others. And I am a big believer in that words are powerful, deeds are more important.
Right.
And and so you want, it's great to say something, but you've got to find a way to convert those words into action. And so this book is really about, especially in that second section, the pillars. I've had a very, very wonderful friend that read the book and said it's like a playbook for life. And which I was incredibly honored for them to say that. Yeah. And that really is that whole second section, the pillars. Because if you think about it, leadership lessons, people want to be inspired. People want to be motivated. They want to have that emotional attachment. And what inspires people, I think in many cases, are people who are committed, who are focused, who are driven. And that tends to be attractive. And I think when you think about what we talk about in the foundational principles, the bedrock principles, the power of the possible, opening yourself up to the power of yes, perseverance, determination, passion, integrity, discipline. These are all things that are a huge part of understanding and developing and acquiring that passion to achieve, to do something amazing, to be significant. And so, but then we move in those leadership lessons about how do we actually do it? How do we build trust? How do we help engender peace of mind? How do we help create a culture of problem solving? How do we create partnerships to help us accomplish our goals? How do we understand this idea of order and control? What's the difference, of how do we have that self-control? How do we embrace a sense of order in our life that allows us to accomplish these things? How do we have the objectivity to be able to help other people accomplish their goals or solve their problems. How do we navigate life? Mike Tyson, it was very famously said, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the nose.
Yeah.
And we all get punched in the nose. We like to refer to it as life happens. So how do you do it when life happens? How do you, pick yourself off the ground and move forward, when you've had something that can be very negative? And how do you overcome? The Marines talk about, adapt, overcome, innovate. And these are things that are important. And then, how can you provide the type of faithful counsel that engenders that trust? And how do you then reflect the values, in the Main Street spirit, what it's all about? These are the things that are the elements of the pillars of purpose that really is a leadership guidepost that someone can read. They can read one chapter and it might resonate for them. And that's the whole element of it. When you're building that structure and you're building those pillars, then in order for them to have the strength to accomplish what you want to, then you've got to do these things. You've got to, work the plan. You've got to make sure that you're following through and you're building that trust. We all know, for example, trust may be the most important pillar. It's something that we continue to work on day by day by day to build that trust. It can be so easily lost. Yep. And maybe never regained again. And so these are the lessons to me of living a life of leadership, living a life of accountability, living a life that truly is about making a difference in the lives of others.
I think that quote you talked about from the Marines, I think I remember that from the movie Heartbreak Ridge with Clint Eastwood saying that in the movie. Yeah, so that sticks out of my mind. So
that was a great movie.
It was a great movie. How do the pillars of purpose outlined in your book contribute to the effective leadership practices for people that want to be leaders and go that route?
Well, I really believe that someone who goes through this book, then, I'm a big believer in the fact that every time you go to a conference, to a workshop, if you can come out of that event, come out of that conference with one or two actionable ideas, that was time well spent. And I believe that Pillars of Purpose is going to give that reader that opportunity to really understand, and they're going to find multiple things in this book that will resonate. And if they can find even that one thing that can be a catalyst for change in their life, one thing that can motivate them to pursue their dream, one thing that can give them a guidepost to find that purpose, or can show them, all right, how can I convert this passion into reality? How can I convert these thoughts into action? How can I take these plans and create a life of significance? And I believe that what we have in here is a common sense book that's written, for anyone. One of the greatest compliments I got was from my daughter. And when she read the book and she said, Dad, I'm not much of a reader, but this was a fun book to read. And so we tried to make it a book that you can pick up, a couple of chapters and enjoy it. You can read the entire thing, start to finish, but you're going to find something in here that resonates, that connects with you. And in so doing, if it helps you on your journey of success, of significance, then that would be time very, very well spent.
Could you share a specific example or anecdote from your own experience in life that exemplifies one of the key principles discussed in the book?
Oh my goodness gracious. Sure. We'll talk about the power of the possible. And this is something that's actually in the book, but I'll give you a very abbreviated version of it. But when I was getting ready to step into the office of National School Board President, then I was thinking about what were the things I wanted to accomplish during that time period. And one of the most important things I wanted to do was to build partnerships. I'm a big believer in bringing people together. In fact, one of the things that we accomplished that we talk about in the book was I was a deep believer in the fact that when you think about the idea of advocacy, then that you have to understand what your strength is and what your weaknesses are. You need to assess where you are, and in order before you to have that message the most relevant and the most resonant. And so we talked about this whole issue of advocacy. Then I said, well, we in public education are never going to have the money to compete with some of these big interests, but what we do have are people. We have 50 million children who attend America's public schools. We have 100 million parents in many cases, who are invested in public education through their kids. We have all the teachers, all the businesses who provide services for public education. And so I said, what if we could assemble literally an army of advocates, of people who have that shared experience and the shared commitment to the success of public education? And I said, what if we could begin to pull these groups together with a common mission of advocating for the best of public education? And so in so doing, and people said, there's no way you can do that. There's no way you can do that. You have all these different siloed interests, and they never work together. And I said, well, we're at least going to try. We're at least going to make the effort. And we went from a standing start in March of 2013 of zero and on my last day as national president in April of 2014, I was able to announce that our army of advocates had just exceeded 50 million people.
Wow.
And we used that advocacy to go to Washington to advocate for public education, and it was an incredible opportunity. And it's all about you never settling for second best, and so that was a great example. In the power of the possible, as I'm trying to build these partnerships, I made a phone call because I wanted to build a partnership with the Navy. Here in Millington, in the Memphis area, for people who don't know, we had one of the very first naval training bases anywhere in America. Right. Most of the pilots who fought for America in World War I and World War II were trained in the landlocked city of Millington, Tennessee. But what they may not know is that when that base changed, that they made almost like corporate headquarters, and we had the admirals of about 27 branches of the Navy based in Millington. So I picked up the phone and I said, you know what, I'm going to call the admiral or actually the XO, the executive officer for naval recruiting. And I said, clearly the Navy, one of their big markets for recruiting are high school students. Why shouldn't we talk about how we could partner together, to use the relevance, the resonance of our voices? So that phone call led to a conversation with the admiral. Then the admiral, decided that he wanted to get involved, and that led to a face-to-face meeting at our national conference in San Diego, which led to a tour that happened that he arranged for our board on a USS destroyer. Well, on that destroyer, then I met a guy who had the world's most perfect Navy name, Ahoy, Al Hoy. And Al was actually a retired Army guy. And he said, you know what, David, I really enjoyed meeting you, and I'm going to call you here in a couple of weeks, and no matter what I say, you've got to say yes. And I said, okay, Al, I don't normally buy into something like that, but I'll bite.
Right. So
a couple of weeks later, I get a phone call from Al, and he said, I need you to be in San Diego next Wednesday morning, and so I need you to fly in Tuesday night, and you remember, you told me you'd say yes. And I said, okay, I'll rearrange my schedule. I'll fly in there. So sure enough, I fly into San Diego that night. He picks me up, takes me to the Marine barracks right across from where the Navy SEALs train, and they're on Coronado Island, San Diego. Next thing I know, he's getting me up at dark early, 3 o'clock in the morning, taking me over to Point Loma, where I go through a briefing and a meeting with that. Next thing I know, they're putting me fully dressed up to get on a Navy cod, where I take off and fly into the middle of the Pacific Ocean, where I do a tailhook landing on the USS Ronald Reagan.
Oh my gosh.
And spent the next day and a half on board, one of the most America's iconic nuclear aircraft carriers. And just an incredible experience. And met all kinds of great guys and great people. And one of the guys I met on that trip was an insurance executive from California. And that insurance executive said, hey, listen, we need to talk about how we can build partnerships for public education. And that led to a meeting with a friend of his who happened to have graduated from Notre Dame, and who actually had spent some time in the National Football League and was actually a former Rookie of the Year in the NFL. And he wanted to talk about the work with his foundation that was working with underprivileged athletes in the LA area. And I said, well, great. He said, well, he wants you to meet him up at his stomping grounds at Notre Dame. And so I got to be the guest of Notre Dame on the sideline for a Notre Dame Michigan game. Got a chance to go down in the locker room, got to be there with Touchdown Jesus and have an amazing experience. And that then led to a conversation that took me to an event that this insurance company was doing out in California, where it happened to coincide with a Bill Clinton Foundation event. And at that event, I ran into a guy by the name of Montel Williams, who was a former television star, former Marine. And Montel and I were talking, and he said, well, you're involved in public education. He said, I just met this guy that has this film, and he's trying to see if he can find a way to get this film into America's schools for them to see. He said, you think you could help? I said, I don't know, maybe. Well, next thing I knew, about a week later, I'm on the phone with Montel Williams and Fox Searchlight Films talking about a partnership for a film that we would work out a way for it to be provided free of charge to every high school in America. Well, that film was called 12 Years a Slave. And it was directed by a guy named Steve McQueen, who is a great British director. And about 3 weeks later, I get a phone call from Fox Searchlight, and they said, Steve wants to meet you. And I said, okay, that's great. He said, well, no, Steve wants to see you Sunday night. And I said, well, that's a bit of a problem because I'm doing a leadership program in Gettysburg with my national school boards that weekend. And she said, you don't understand me. Steve wants you to be his guest at the Academy Awards Sunday night.
Wow.
I need you to arrange your schedule. And so I work out with my team. We end up, I'm in Gettysburg. We do a great leadership program. And then Cameron and I actually get on a plane, fly across the country, and land in LA. Next thing we know, we're in a limo on our way to the Academy Awards and get out and are walking the red carpet of the Academy Awards. And I get a phone call, and it's my contact with Fox Searchlight. She says, where are you? Steve is looking for you. And I said, we're walking the red carpet. She said, well, come over here where the nominees are. So I walked over there, and as Steve walks, I said, man, can I give you a hug? And we had this great hug. We're talking, and I remembered that I'd put in my pocket a little red wristband, one of those rubber wristbands that were so popular a few years ago. And this one said, stand up for public schools. And I said, Steve, I'm going to give this to you as a token of our friendship and for good luck tonight. Because that movie was nominated, Steve was nominated for Best Director, and that movie was nominated for Best Picture. And so we hug, I head on, I go to the very last seat in the Kodak Theater. Steve's in the front row because he's a nominee.
Right.
Well, about halfway through the Academy Awards, I get my phone starts blowing up. Steve is wearing the wristband. People start saying, what's up with this red wristband? Even the New York Times is picking up on what's going on with this wristband. So I'm thinking, wow, how cool would it be if Steve McQueen won an Academy Award for Best Director and held that Academy Award with that wristband?
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, the guy who directed the film Gravity won the Academy Award for Best Director. But it came down to the last award of the evening, Best Picture. And 12 Years a Slave won Best Picture. And so Steve McQueen goes on stage holding that Academy Award, red wristband, proudly displayed as he hugs Brad Pitt.
Oh my God!
And who was a co-producer and a star of the show. All of that began with a phone call, trying to open up an opportunity for a partnership with the Navy that led to walking the red carpet. That is the power of the possible.
Yeah, and it's funny you said that because I always talk about on many of my podcasts the power of a moment. One moment in your life, one little thing that changes the whole course of your life, and you never know what it is.
And from that one phone call, a tailhook landing on an aircraft carrier, going to Notre Dame, there were Touchdown Jesus, touching the sign there, having, going to the Clinton Foundation thing, running into Montel Williams and the red carpet. It's opening yourself up to yes. Think about how many times in our lives that, we're experiencing a situation. It's so easy to say no. It's almost a default. But if you open yourself up to the power of yes, then you open yourself up to the power of the possible, and anything can happen.
A lot of people don't realize that Colonel Sanders was turned down many times before Kentucky Fried Chicken. He was in his, I believe, mid-60s.
That's right. It took him 65 years to be an overnight success.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. In what ways do you believe readers can implement the teachings from your book into their daily lives or professional careers?
Again, especially when we talk about the pillars, then each and every one of these chapters, it literally, we have specific checklists, specific lists of things that you can do. And again, I encourage people to find those things that work for them. One of the things that we talk about in the book is so many times people, try to focus on what you're not good at. Right. How can you be better at this? But my philosophy is very different, because I believe that you should find the things that you love, find the things that you're good at, and spend the time to become great at them. If you think about, and I use this concept of a fruit pit. And if you take a fruit pit and you spend all this time polishing it and putting all kinds of love and attention to it, at the end of the day, what do you have? A fruit pit.
Right.
You have a pit. But if you take that lump of coal and you provide enough pressure, and enough energy and enough force, over time you have what? A diamond. And so focus on making diamonds. Focus, as opposed to polishing pits. And that can make all the difference in the world. And what the pillars are all about is, again, it's that playbook for life. It's the opportunity to find those things that resonate for you. Find the thing that you love, that you can be, that you are good at, but you want to be great at, that you want to be the best at, that you can really differentiate yourself. And that can make all the difference for you.
Love it. How do you envision your book making an impact on individuals striving for personal growth and for that leadership development?
You know what? It's already happening. I've been so blessed. I've had so many clients and friends and associates who have read the book and have told me, how much they enjoyed it, but also how meaningful it was for them, and how they've already gone through and they've read chapters multiple times, and they've gone back to different sections of the book, and they found something that fit for them, that resonated for them. Anytime that you read a book, then I think it opens your mind. It opens up different opportunities. And again, if you find those elements that make sense for you, and whether it be about building that peace of mind, or about focusing on problem solving, or about how to be a better advocate, or how to be more effective in building partnerships, or how do you reflect in your business or in your life the values that you hold dear. All of these things are things that can help make each of us better. They help us in our journey of life, because we all will define success differently.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, when you look in that mirror at night and you say, you know what, I feel pretty good about myself. I feel pretty good about what we accomplished today. And all of this book is all about is about opening yourself up the possibility of you becoming the best version of yourself.
Tell us a little bit about your wife, Beth, and the two of you, how you guys met, and your children, Chris and Katie, and now obviously your grandchildren too, and what they've brought to your lives.
Oh my goodness. Well, I was very blessed that I met my wife Beth in college. She has had a lifelong commitment to service, community service, and I actually was applying for a job on what we call the union board at Arkansas State University. The union board did all the programming, all the concerts, all the speakers for the university, and she had been a founding member of it. And I'll never forget, I came in there with the application because one of my fraternity brothers, who actually had been her former fiance, had encouraged me to apply. And I'll never forget, I found out later that her first impression with me was how much she hated me because my resume was so darn thick, and she had to copy all those pages. And so she's great at keeping me very grounded. But no, we got to know each other first as friends, and because she was actually going through a breakup from my fraternity brother.
Right.
And it wasn't until a couple years later that we started dating, and it was just been an amazing journey. Actually, today we've been married 44 years.
Oh my God! Congratulations! Happy anniversary!
Thank you. It's been fantastic. And then we were so blessed to have two great kids. My oldest, Chris, who he really helped me in so many ways because he was my opportunity to learn a lot more about the world of scouting. Chris and I got to experience so many great weekends together in Boy Scout campouts and high adventure camps, and his personal journey to Eagle. He actually ended up becoming the National Eagle Scout of the Year, ended up with over 100 merit badges, and actually did his Eagle project that converted an inner part of a school in Shelby County into an environmental classroom. It took 3 years to complete. It was an amazing project. And Chris now, he always had a great interest in computers. And I'll never forget saying the stupidest thing in the world that I ever did to him. He was about 16 years old, and he was spending a bunch of time on the computer. And I said, how in the world do you ever expect to make a living when all you want to do is play computer games? Well, he is now a cybersecurity expert for the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, and one of the nation's leaders in cybersecurity technology. So yes, he shut me up real quick about that.
Yes, he did.
He could tell me what he does for a living, but he didn't have to kill me, I think. And then my daughter Katie, our baby, she was the polar opposite of Chris. She was the social butterfly, and when she played soccer, she was more concerned about the bow she had in her hair than her soccer game. But Katie also, she was the one who really embraced also this whole family thing of community engagement. In fact, right out of college, she went to work for JDRF, advocating for and raising money for type 1 diabetics, and advocating for that, and really brought us into that world with JDRF and helping raise, hundreds of thousands and really millions of dollars for type 1 diabetes research. And after 6 years of great work with JDRF, then I had to convince her that now is the time for her to join my firm. And she said, I'm not sure I want to do this. I love, the feeling of the accomplishment of working with people and helping them out. And I said, well, I think you'll find something very similar with us. And she now says that as much as she loved JDRF, and she's still deeply involved with fundraising for them and helping orchestrate a lot of their events, because she's an event planner as well, then she now embraces the opportunity that we have to make a difference in people's lives. And so that's been amazing. Katie got married about 5 years ago, and to a great guy named Daniel Callahan. And then and Chris married my wonderful daughter-in-law Amy, and again 8 years ago they gave me my first grandchild. And the reason why my car now has the license plate Poppy is because I'm not David, I'm Poppy to Julianne and to Cora. Julianne, she killed me to hear me say that. She goes by Jules, and Cora, 8 and 4, and precocious, smart as heck, and they have just added such a joy. They always say that grandchildren are God's gift for not killing your children. Yes. But no, it's listen. I always said the best gift, the best job I ever had in my life was being a dad, until I became a granddad,
right,
or Poppy.
Right.
But it's amazing.
The power of a moment. You take in your resume to Beth, and her getting mad because it's so thick. I mean, imagine you hadn't taken your resume. I mean, your whole life's different. So, like I said, it happened the way it was supposed to happen.
It is, and I mean, and still to this day, my wife leads so much of our community involvement efforts. Again, the legacy of giving that she had, which really has been transcended through our entire family, and that really is what we built here at our company. It's a family environment. We've got husband and wife working here. We've got brother and brother-in-law. We've got all kinds of family engagements here, because people, they embrace what we do. They embrace the culture, and it is a very, very, not just family friendly, it's family first.
Awesome. David, what are the most important lessons you've learned in life?
Give. The more you give, you have no idea how much you receive. It is amazing. Each of us is given talents. Whether it be financial or musical or human resources or focus or whatever it happens to be, it's how we use those talents. And to me, the opportunity that we're given every day to make a difference in the community, a difference in the lives of our clients that we serve, is one of the greatest honors I could ever imagine. And so when you walk into a day, walk into an opportunity thinking, what can we give? then you don't have to worry about what you're going to receive back, because it will take care of itself.
Right.
And again, our clients, again, we average 3 to 4 appointments a week just from the referrals our clients give us every week. And so, our clients take great care of us because we spend our time focusing giving to them. And so, that's, to me, is the opportunity. We each, as humans, as members of this great, the spaceship Earth or whatever, then each of us has an opportunity. I think we have an obligation to give back. And, give back, pay forward, but do it with passion, do it with purpose, do it with focus. Do it not for what it's going to do for you, but do it because it's the right thing to do, and because you're together, you're going to make the community a stronger place, your state a better place, your nation, and humankind.
Awesome. I'd like to thank our sponsors for Think Big with Michael Zellner, Buckley's Grill and Sleepy Z's Masonry. Buckley's Grill, for those that don't know, it's a little hidden gem in Memphis, right at Poplar in the state. It's locally owned by 2 friends of mine, Jeff Fiorinelli and Ken Dick. They specialize in steaks and Southern hospitality for over 30 years. When you walk in the place, you're greeted with all friendly people. It's usually either Jeff or Ken. And when you get seated, the staff is amazing, the food is amazing, and they have the best cream spinach in Memphis. So you definitely have to try out Buckley's Grill. I'm sure you've probably been there before.
Ken Dick used to be my backdoor neighbor. And again, great people.
Yes, definitely. And Sleepy Z's Masonry services the entire Memphis and Mid-South area, including West Tennessee, North Mississippi, and Eastern Arkansas. They're a member of the Better Business Bureau of the Mid-South, the West Tennessee Home Builders Association, and the Mason Contractors Association of America. Whether you need brickwork, stone, cinder block, concrete, or you just need one brick replaced, Sleepy Z's can take care of all your needs, all the way up to building the whole house for you with brick or stone. And once again, Sleepy Z's Masonry, their motto is, you'll rest easy while they're on the job. Pillars of Purpose is available in softback, hardback, and on Kindle ebook, and can be purchased on Amazon.com and also at pillarsofpurpose.com. And David, I want to ask you, how can people get in touch with you and your firm if they are interested in learning more about what you guys do at your companies?
Absolutely. You can always go to picklerwealthadvisors.com. You'll find information about all of our firms, Pickler Accounting Advisors, Pickler Wealth Advisors, the Pickler Law Firm, and about the American Pillars Education Foundation. So you can just go to picklerwealthadvisors.com. Certainly our phone number is 901-316-0160. Listen, we do not charge anything for initial consultations.
Nice.
It's just part of our commitment to giving back. And again, we're focused on investing our time before we ever talk about investing your money. But listen, this has been such an incredible honor. I love talking to you.
Yeah, the same here. And I have to tell you, I really enjoyed doing the research on you, your book, and your life. I've known of you for many years, like I said, growing up here in Memphis. And it's really apparent to me why your success has come. It's just because you talk hard and smart work, your perseverance, your desire, and you talked about giving back, and obviously, how important that is to you. And obviously, you would not be getting 3 to 4 referrals every single week if you guys were not doing something incredible for people. So thanks so much for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
My pleasure.